All right, so we're live. Hi, everybody. I'm Christina Proctor, and I'm here with the wonderful Kat Evans. She'll introduce herself here in just a moment. I am really excited to talk today because this is something that's near and dear to my heart as somebody who is late diagnosed ADHD and would have benefited from support in high school and college. So today what we're talking about is how to launch your ADHD college student for success in school. And Kat, why don't you introduce yourself and
Yeah.
what we're talking about today?
Thanks, Christina. Yeah, just like Christina, I'm late diagnosed ADHD inattentive, and this is obviously an issue I care a lot about. I've been a classroom teacher for nearly 20 years. I've taught in high school and college classrooms, and since getting my diagnosis, felt really called to help kids who were like me in school, and really to be the kind of mentor coach that I wish I had when I was going through high school and college. So that's why I'm here, and it's been wonderful. I love the work that I do.
That's awesome. And it's such important work. You recently shared a really cool statistic this morning on ADHD coaching. I'm sure you'll get to that in just a moment and share with everybody. But the program that we're talking about today is the College Accelerator Program.
Mm.
I would love to know what inspired you to make this program.
Yeah. So I was a former college professor, and I've been coaching college students for years. On top of that, and have really seen kids with ADHD struggle pretty mightily their first year in particular. The transition from high school to college is difficult for everyone. And if you do have ADHD, it can be quite a feat to do that, to have that transition go successfully. So I really base everything on my experiences and what the research says about what kids need to make that first crucial year as successful as possible. So, kids with ADHD are more vulnerable to dropping out of college, and we need people with neurodivergent minds in educational institutions, and we need them to have college degrees so they can work in fields where their minds are really going to be valued. So I think it's a really important mission. I love working with people at this stage in their life. They're still figuring things out. They're not a child anymore, just beginning to be like an emerging adult. And that was a really pivotal time in my life, and I had some really incredible people help me through it. So yeah, that's what I want to offer to these kids, and give them a running start their first semester. Yeah.
That's amazing, because I know that speaking from personal experience, I was really challenged by the transition. I was excited about college. I was ready to go. I definitely was not prepared on how to navigate that transition. And I know, since you work predominantly with later or high school and college age, there's not just that person involved in that coaching experience, right? So for any parents watching, I'm really wondering, like, if you feel worried or discouraged about how to even navigate working with your ADHD student going into college, what would you want to say to them?
Yeah. I would want to say that in my decades of working with kids with all kinds of different kinds of brains, that every kid is capable. I believe that every kid has the inner resources to actually go after and achieve what they want. I've seen it happen time and time again. And I think the more informed parents are about campus resources, how to set up a supportive environment from day one for their kid with ADHD when they go to college, the more they will feel more secure, right? And we do know also that coaching throughout the college years is also a really important support, as well as utilizing the the academic support services, disability services, and all of that. So one of the first things I say to parents is like, this is normal. This is expected. It is hard. It's challenging, That doesn't mean your kid can't do hard things though, because they can.
Yeah, and I think that's the important thing is that it makes sense why people would have that anxiety about their kid going off, but they're capable.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're absolutely capable.
Mhm.
When we think about the challenges that ADHD students have when they're navigating college life, what have you seen?
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen, I would say, a variety of challenges, but I think the first one is the self regulation required to get oneself up for the 8 a.m. class without mom and dad like knocking on their bedroom door.
Yeah.
Everything from that to forming interpersonal like relationships and
Mm.
being able to balance social life with academics can be really challenging, and it's hard for anyone at this age to do that when they also have like just stepped out of their house, you know.
Mhm.
um but I think what I see a lot is like a difficulty maintaining a daily routine that
Mhm.
can work for their brain, and monitoring their energy levels. And oftentimes we can get burned out. We can get the ADHD burnout, and this can happen in college, especially. And so being able to know when you're too tired to study, when to rest, how to make sure you're getting good nutrition, exercise, stress relief, and sleep. I think those are, again, they're challenging for every college student, but I think particularly challenging for some kids with ADHD. And that's really where I start is like, we got to have those biological, like that biological foundation for us to be able to do cognitively demanding work. Um, I see a lot of challenges with sleep, maintaining a consistent sleep schedule, which has a lot of repercussions from that. So I would say daily routine, relationship building, balancing work and play, and then taking care of yourself.
Yeah, those can be very challenging for most people going through that transition, but especially for ADHDers who are learning all of that at the same time. Okay.
Mhm.
When you think about the College Accelerator program
Yeah.
that you're also here to talk about, what specific tools or strategies would students learn in that College Accelerator program that would help with all of these transitions and all of these challenges that they face?
Yeah. So I built the College Accelerator based on my direct experience with kids that are transitioning from high school to college, and then kids who maybe just finished their first year of college. And I identified some common domains, if you will, of things that I see would be able, if they worked on them, they would see the most immediate benefit.
Mhm.
So we start off with identifying strengths, because everything I do is through a strengths based approach.
Love
So
it.
those can be academic strengths, executive functioning strengths, character strengths. And it really, really helps for them to have a concrete idea of what those are, because that is the first step in building custom tools that will actually work for your brain, right? I want them to use their strengths to overcome any obstacles. So we talk about that. One of the first other things we talk about is stress management.
Hmm.
What's your plan for coping? What are your healthy coping strategies? How will you utilize them when you're on your own for the first time? From there, we talk about systems,
Hmm.
especially, colleges usually have a learning management system where they'll post assignments and grades and things like that. Some of those are not very ADHD friendly at all. So one of the things we do is we look at your particular college's system and we figure out how to hack it, basically, so that it actually makes sense for your brain. And we can use a combination of tools to do that. So the systems regarding like tracking assignments, studying, all of those things that kind of need to get done, even like how do you show up for class? Um, Related to that, their relationship with time and routine.
Mm. Yeah.
Tricky for us. We have time blindness. Our brain gets really bored with routine. At least mine does anyway.
Yeah.
But to have that stable foundation, so like, oh my gosh, when you have that final exam coming up, or maybe your roommate's like, you and your roommate got in a fight, something is stressful, they will have the safety and the container of those routines in their daily life to support them academically, but really like um, in terms of their emotional well-being and wellness. Um, we talk about time awareness. There's various ways that we think about that. And then I do go deep into college level study skills.
Okay.
That are friendly for people who think a little bit differently. And we cover sleep and tech usage, and those things need to probably be talked about together.
Yeah.
Right. And the most important, arguably one of the most important things we cover is self-advocacy. So how do you get your accommodations? How do you get the documentation? How do you follow up with professors on, getting extended time for tests? How do you efficiently use the accommodations that you have for in-class time?
Mhm.
What are your rights when it comes to, as an adult over age 18? What are your rights in terms of what accommodations the colleges can give you? So it's really the onus is on them. And one thing a lot of people don't know is that 504 plans and IEPs do not continue into college.
Yeah.
So you will need, for example, like a recent evaluation, along with perhaps other documentation, and you need to apply again for accommodations if they did that in high school as well. So I think that's a really important thing for them to have like ready and set when they first step into that first classroom, those accommodations in place.
And I think that is so important because as they learn self-advocacy, I work with adults,
Mhm.
especially adults in the corporate world and organizations who work with neurodivergent brains. And one of the biggest things we work on initially is self-advocacy
Mhm.
because they've gone through their life and they haven't learned what self-advocacy looks like.
Yeah.
And, that's not just saying, it can be as small as, I work best when I have these things set up at home, or
Mhm.
it could be at something as simple as letting your professor know that you're going to be 10 minutes late because your class right before this is all the
Mhm.
way across campus. And it's
Mhm.
like, you're not trying to be rude, you're not trying to be tardy, but it's just the nature of the geographic beast, right?
Mhm.
And so when we think about self advocacy in college, um, what are some things that you've seen your students be challenged by when it comes to self advocacy as a whole?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean, the the student professor dynamic is one that intimidates some people. These professors are experts in their field, super smart. And I think some students, a lot of students put them on a pedestal, and I nothing
Mhm.
wrong with that. As a college professor, I would love to be put on a pedestal, but
Yeah.
I think there could be some shame triggered or some uncomfortable feelings when it comes to like actually talking with your professor and asking for accommodations or reminding your professor about what accommodations you have because they likely won't remember.
Yeah.
So it is just strengthening that like ability to communicate effectively, and ask for what you need, and and be confident in asking for what you need. You deserve to get what you need to succeed just like anyone else.
That's right.
And that can be really hard because a lot of people who've gone through their childhood or their teenagehood with like unmanaged, if you will, ADHD can have some really tough narratives about school. It's really painful narratives about school and that they feel like they don't belong or that school just isn't made for them.
Mm.
Um, so you got all those narratives kind of coming in, some baggage and things like that. But it is like reaching out for that initial first time. I think kids need support in, which I'm happy to give them. Um, and then also the challenge of being informed of what you can request how
Mhm.
often, what to do, how to use it efficiently. And a lot of times in high school, teachers, might have an eye on your accommodations, or if you have an IEP plan, there will be like regular meetings about it. Not so in college.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's getting over that hump of like asking and advocating and kind of feeling some uncomfortable feelings at first.
Mm.
And then yes, being informed.
And that's so important because as people go into the workplace, ultimately, this is something you have to do, even if you're not asking for formal accommodations in the workplace. Self advocacy and boundary setting
Hmm.
is important. And so many people get to their first job or their 10th job, and they've never learned how to set boundaries
Mm-hmm.
professionally. And so, this is such an important part of the journey into adulthood. Um, We do have a comment on LinkedIn that came in. Jennifer. Hey, Jennifer. Thanks for commenting on here. She says, as a parent and faculty member at a university, I 100% agree that students should learn and practice self advocacy in a professional way. Many professors have hundreds of students and want to make sure that students have everything they need to reach their full potential and succeed. But with that many students, we can't necessarily remember everyone all the time.
No, can't.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point. And I think that oftentimes when what I've seen, it's like people feel like they've told them once and it's bothering them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's where the self advocacy is important because sometimes people do need the reminder like, hey, I
Mhm.
have these accommodations when it comes to testing or paper submission, or, I really benefit from having additional, one on one time just to review my outline before I start writing out my paper. And so that's an important step in self advocacy into adulthood.
Mhm.
So these are amazing things that you're teaching in the College Accelerator program.
Thank you.
Um, and so a question that we talked about a little bit because I was even wondering, as a parent of a teen, but not
Mhm.
quite getting into that realm yet, how would you explain the differences between what you're doing in the College Accelerator program and somebody who's saying already doing academic tutoring for their student?
Sure. Yeah. So academic tutoring, the basis or the premise of that is that you hire someone who is a subject area expert.
Mhm.
So perhaps a writing teacher, a math teacher, things like that. They have a specific, academic area that they have a lot of experience or expertise in, and they might do mini lessons tailored to you. You might have that the tutor to student kind of relationship. There might be homework assigned. Um, there might be, sitting next to them, going through problems step by step, things like that, or perhaps working with them on an outline for English class, right? So, and I have done that myself for many years and thoroughly enjoy it as a subject matter expert in the humanities and reading and writing. Coaching is based on the premise that the coach himself is not the expert. Like I know a lot about ADHD. I have lived experience of ADHD. I've been trained, sure, but I'm not the expert on what's going on internally in the client's experience, or what their lived experience is day to day. So my job is to help the kids figure out for themselves what
Mhm.
how they want to address their challenges and use their strengths. Um, we don't really get into the nitty gritty of like, well, let's sit down and let's start working on your essay. Although sometimes I might help someone with the task initiation hump, right? Like, oh my gosh, I have this math homework, cat, like, and I've just been procrastinating and procrastinating. I'm like, all right, well, let's take 5 minutes and let's start that math homework, right? Just to
Mhm.
have them experience like, oh, okay, like, yeah, and I can initiate it, right?
Right.
I'm not a subject expert in math. Like
Yeah.
I would probably lower their grade if I if I tutored them in math.
Yeah.
So on, as a former high school teacher and professor, like I do know, yes, how to help them write an essay and all of that. But um and sometimes that comes up, but my real job is actually to help them live life more joyfully and um learn about their own brain and understand how to make choices and set up systems that are actually going to help them thrive. And it's not limited to school.
Mm.
Not limited to school. It's actually, I mean, I never coach, honestly, a student, or, it's someone who's in high school and college, and we just talk about school.
Right.
It's so much more. It's so much more than that. Home life, relationships, peers, like, so it's a lot more. It's about their whole personhood,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Um, and the other thing is, you usually go to a tutor if you're, maybe you got a bad grade in English, or you're having trouble. You don't maybe get this concept in math, and then you go and you get illuminated and like, cool. And maybe you get like an improved grade. Awesome. Coaching outcomes are both tangible and intangible. So
Mm.
most kids I work with say, oh my God, like, one, I feel so much less stress in my life because of our work together. And two, um, that I feel good about myself finally, right?
Mm. Wow.
If you have an effective tutor, could that happen as a result of you like getting a good math grade? Sure. But that's like a temporary thing. Like, and then you'll go on to the next course, next semester. This is like a lifelong, like we're looking for lifelong outcomes with coaching.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. You mentioned a little bit about like the research backed support for coaching. And I know
Yeah.
that there was an interesting thing you just posted on LinkedIn this morning. I would
Yeah.
love for you to talk about the research behind the impact of ADHD coaching for college students specifically.
Yeah. I'm kind of a research junkie, so I'm always looking at whatever's coming out, recently. And I stumbled upon sort of a series of articles about, the efficacy of coaching.
Mhm.
That's always something that I want to be up on, and I want to make sure that people know, because coaching is a relatively new field. Like, I didn't
Yeah.
about a coach when I was in high school. I had no idea what that was. Like, right? Like,
Yeah.
so relatively new field, gaining a lot of ground, really based on research. And so I like to have the information at hand to offer to parents or to the people I work with, the kids. Yes. And I posted about a particular study, and many studies have backed this up, that found a correlation between GPA and ADHD coaching. And the study was based on students with identified, ADHD, and other learning differences.
Mhm.
And they studied, they looked at the factors of tutoring, academic advising, use of like disability supports, like accommodations, things like that,
Mhm.
and coaching. And they found that it was only coaching for kids with ADHD that actually made a measurable impact on GPA. I have one caveat with this, which is like, I don't talk about grades. Some my kids talk about grades, like, oh, Kat,
Yeah.
I really want to get an A in this class. I'm like, I feel you. I get it. And I've been really involved in grade reform. I have a very progressive view of grades. People who've worked with me over the past 10 years as a teacher know this. So I will hesitate to say, like, GPA, it's one factor, it's one data point.
Right.
But I think I share that statistic because I think a lot of kids and parents, obviously care about GPA. I mean, we still live in a world where, unfortunately, kids' learning is reduced to one, the numbers from 1 to 4.
Yeah.
It's kind of nuts. High
Yeah.
school also, like,
Mhm.
it's so, that's my one, like, disclaimer about that. But I think what it does show with GPA is that you are hopefully successfully meeting professors' expectations. You are
Mm.
successfully completing the exams. You are successfully meeting academic standards. Hopefully, that's what GPA encompasses, although we know there's a lot of other factors.
There are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I just thought that was amazing. And I knew this, like, I kind of, yeah, but to have it compared up against academic tutoring was really interesting. That for
Mm.
specifically for kids with ADHD. It's not academic tutoring. Most kids that I work with ADHD are perfectly fine academically. They're,
Yeah. And that
you
and
know,
that just goes to show how learning how to work with your brain is so important. It's like we have the intellectual capacity to execute this work, to do it, to participate, to do the homework, to study and understand it, the concepts, and the execution day to day
yeah,
might look completely different than our peers.
yes,
And it could look different ADHD to ADHD.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
So, yeah, so when we think of supporting our students, or the whole concept behind this LinkedIn Live today is how to launch your ADHD college student. If somebody who has a teen that's going to college, or currently maybe going in their first year or finish it up, and they felt like, I don't even know where to start when it comes to supporting them or just
Mhm.
getting going, what would you say to them?
Yeah. So depending on the age
Yeah.
of the student, so
Yeah.
I'll talk about two different like time periods. One is like maybe you're thinking junior year in high school.
Mhm.
You're thinking about okay, a year from now they're going to be stepping onto campus.
Yeah.
Junior year, sophomore year is actually a perfect time if you feel like your kid is college bound and that's important to you and your family to
Mhm.
start to help them become more independent.
Yeah.
Um, and
Well,
it is a really tricky line. I'm a parent. I have a 4-year-old though, but it's like I see some
yeah.
similarities. Like it's really tricky to tread that line between giving support and enabling, right? It's like, ooh,
Mhm.
how do we balance that? But I find that with my clients, if they're having some trouble with college, it usually stems from not having experience with some of these independent learning skills.
Okay.
Um, and so, for example, helping your kid feel empowered to take ownership over a routine, right?
Mhm.
Like when you wake up in the morning, how do you get your butt to school on time,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's like a constant thing, kids skipping class and, in college, like your professors might keep track of that, but no one's going to bang down your door and be like, hey,
Oh,
you show up to class today.
yeah. Mhm.
So really thinking about, imagine what it's going to be like their first year in their dorm room and think about what routines or systems or and mindsets would
Yeah.
you like them to have that can carry them through some stressful and kind of hard moments. So I'd say think about I the executive function skills that they need. So I can share this post this event, but there's a great chart that I use about what for each age range, like what are the skills that you can expect um, for someone with ADHD
Yeah.
to meet, which is a little bit different than our peers, right? We
Yes.
have a neural developmental difference.
Yes.
Means that your kid with ADHD who lives in an 18-year-old body might not have the executive functioning that a neurotypical 18-year-old would have.
Yes.
So we want to have that information, keep our expectations realistic, but I think helping them, empowering them to become more independent, again, junior and senior year of high school, pick one thing.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like keeping track of their assignments by themselves or packing their lunch
Yeah.
or waking themselves up in the morning or whatever it is. Pick one thing you can
Yeah.
build on. Now, if you have a kid who is in college for their first year and you're concerned, right? You're like, oof, like maybe they have a tough semester. Usually I think first, how are they taking care of their biological needs? So
Yes. So
sleep,
tr
sleep,
so true.
sleep, sleep. Most kids I work with do not get enough sleep.
Yeah.
And it is just a cascade effect from there. Like yeah.
Mhm.
It's super important for our still developing brains and for people with ADHD. We need it. It's a non-negotiable. So I say, okay, let's look at it from a wellness lens first. Are they getting enough to eat? Are they eating regularly? Are they moving their body in some way regularly? Are they sleeping a decent amount regularly as much as possible, right?
Right.
We look at those things first. We look at, if they have medication, are they taking it? Are they consistently taking medication? Are they consistently, getting to those doctor's appointments, getting to those therapy appointments, whatever it is? And that may be really hard. Like it might be really hard for them to do that. So I say, start with biological, start with stress level, wellness, looking at how to lower stress so that their brain has enough free space, has enough energy to apply
Yeah.
itself to these higher academic tasks that they'll
Mhm.
learn in college.
And you bring up something that I hear questioned frequently, which
Yeah.
is medication.
Oh, sure.
And
Mhm.
so,
Yeah.
I don't med shame. I personally take store-bought dopamine. I am medicated myself. Yep.
Yeah.
And some people aren't.
Yep.
And what I have gotten questions from adults, and I'm sure the parents ask this too. Well, I'm on meds. Shouldn't I not have these issues anymore?
I know, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I will say with my clients, I am med neutral. Like I will give you the information. I
Yeah.
will tell you, but it is a decision between you and your physician and
Mhm.
your parents.
Yes.
Um, Meds, here's what, and this, I use this refrain a lot. 30% pills, 70% skills.
Yeah.
The medication, if it works efficiently, is going to help. It will, like, and research shows about 80% of people who try medication, they might have to try, I think the average is like 2.75 medications you have to try before, you find
At
the
least.
one. But research shows, about 80% of people respond enough to medication that they consider it an overall net positive,
Yeah.
right? And there are side effects with like stimulants and things like that that we do have to contend with.
Yeah.
Um, but medication might, let's say, for example, make focus easier. It
Mhm.
doesn't tell you what to focus on or how long
Yeah.
or how to, you know what I mean?
I
Like
do.
it can help. Yes, we and I
I
both
do.
talking
Yeah.
about that. It
Yeah.
can help normalize, if I mean, kind of hate that
Mhm.
word, but like make our brains function a little bit more like a neurotypical brain,
Yeah.
somewhat, right?
Yeah.
But the, still, um, we need those skills. We need to look at ourselves and look at our strengths. We need to put down maybe perhaps some negative stories we have about ourselves and our ADHD, all of that work, emotional, psychological work. Um, and so I see medication, if someone chooses to take it, as it's helping meet a biological need, neurological need, right? But you still gotta live your life. You still have to live life in a world that is not set up for people with ADHD. Um, yeah. So
Yeah.
I see just anecdotally, like the kids that I know that do try medication and have found benefit, they do report two things. One is that focus is so much easier,
Yes.
and two, that the voices in their head are quieter, which
Oh,
means like their cognitive hyperactivity
yeah.
is lower, so they can think more clearly, make more clear decisions and things like that.
Yeah. And I loved, you talking about 30% meds. What was it? 30% pills,
Pills with
70%
pills,
skills.
yeah,
Yeah.
30%. And for some people, I will say this, some people it's 40-60. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, but it's if you have an amazing response to medication, right?
Yeah.
But it's still very few people personally that I know who can pop a pill every day and then be like, well,
No issue.
yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And, that's something I experience with adults too, where they say, I'm on meds. Why is this still an issue?" It's like, well, we still need to work through emotional regulation. You
Yeah.
still would benefit from figuring out what organization looks like for you at your desk or at home or even in your car. So I do very similar things. We focus on strengths as with adults. We focus on, we're not focusing on those exact like GPA numbers, but we're focused on biology first. Are you feeding your human? Do you have water? Like,
Mm-hmm.
think about a plant. Like, if you have
Yeah.
not gotten outside to get sun, if you haven't had water today, if you also hadn't fed yourself, it's going to be super duper hard to focus in a meeting or in class. So those basics, while seemingly not a big deal, are critical.
Mm-hmm.
And so figuring out that you do need them, I had some adults sit there and say, I shouldn't need that water.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I shouldn't have to have X. Are
Yeah.
those things that you experience with your clients as well?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Um, I mean, it's really hard, and you might have gone through this at school too, but for me, for example, it's really hard to sit there and work like 5 times as hard
Oh,
as a peer, and not really understand why you have to. I mean, you're just this
yeah,
smart, and this is right, and like,
yeah,
why do I have to keep what is this? And like, why do I have no attention to detail, and why do I keep, So, no, it's so hard, and because it's natural for us to compare, obviously, ourselves to the majority.
yeah. Oh,
We're still the
100%.
minority. I mean, we are, like,
Yeah,
so but I think, yes, the desire, which is so valid, to have a brain that is different than the one we got,
yeah.
right? The neurological makeup is different than the one we got.
Mhm.
Um, it's really hard. I feel like some people go through like a grieving process around it, right? It's like before you can accept, like, yep, these are the facts about myself,
Absolutely.
and they're just facts, and they do not dictate my worth as a human being.
Absolutely. And I think that's a really important thing to work through, but also have the language to know that that's what you're experiencing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so that's
Mm.
so important to know, especially if you're a parent of a teen college age student
Mhm.
with ADHD. So we're here talking about the College Accelerator Program.
Mhm.
If
Mhm.
somebody is interested in learning more about the College Accelerator Program to support their ADHD college student or their college bound student, what could they do?
Yeah. So you can go to my website. It's just katevanscoaching.com, and you will see the info there. There's a little tab with it says College Accelerator. You will be able to look at the week by week breakdown of the skills that we'll cover, as well as the outcomes of each week that you can expect and your student can expect. Um, there will be a registration link as well. I always urge people, like, if you're like, I have more questions, I'm not really sure, book a call with me. Let's just talk for 20 minutes. Let me hear your story. And for some people, the College Accelerator is like an awesome fit. And other people are like, you know what? I just want one-on-one coaching. I'm like, that's great too. And we can do the same types of like the same type of preparation for you one-to-one. Um, so that info would be on my website. And I do just want to mention that up until May 15th, if you register, you get the early bird pricing. So it's about $100 less. Um, so for folks that might be thinking about that, and the College Accelerator starts in mid-June and goes till August 4th. And it meets once a week for 90 minutes with lots of breaks in those 90 minutes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited about it because I think there's a real need for incoming college students and current college students to know that they are not alone and
Mhm.
that they're not broken,
Right.
and that there are other people your age going through the exact same stuff. And you can find strength in knowing that you're part of a group of people who can really validate your lived experience.
Mhm.
Um, that has been super helpful to me in my own like journey with my own like ADHD diagnosis. So yeah, that's why I made it a group experience, but it will be very small, no more than 5 per group.
Okay.
So it'll still be very like high touch, in terms of the individual coaching I can give.
That's great to know the size of the group and what you're getting into. I know that as my flavor of ADHD, it helps me to kind of understand what I'm walking into. So
Yes.
thank you for explaining that. And now they will be over Zoom.
So there's a choice. So if you're local, you're in Asheville, you're gonna come over to my home. I'm in my home office right now. People like it. It's very, unique. But no, I would host 4 of the sessions in person if people can choose that option, and then it's like a hybrid. So 4 online and 4 in person.
Yep.
And then there's another option that's totally virtual. So if you're traveling for the summer or whatever, you can just hop on Zoom.
Awesome. Great. Well, Kat, it's been great talking with you. And I really encourage anybody who has a college bound or currently college ADHD student to check out Kat's College Accelerator program and get them set up with the tools that they need to succeed.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Christina.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.